everyone to today's webinar brought to you by ng-conf. The speaker today has a background in open source, cloud infrastructure, cloud native, web development, and he's a well-seasoned developer advocate and a passionate international speaker with over 2 decades of experience in the tech industry. So let's please welcome Frederick Harper. Welcome, Frederick.
Hey, thanks for having me. Really happy and excited to be here.
It's really good to have you here.
Thanks everybody for joining, or I assume people who's gonna watch the video also. Thanks for joining. For people that registered for the first initial date of the webinar, I need to apologize. I was sick. I caught the flu. And I had to postpone. It was really last minute. I wrote to the organizer. It was, I think, 3 or 4 a.m. And I was like, nope, fever, not gonna happen. That was one of the first time in my career that I had to cancel something. But that happened. I guess that's life. So sorry about that. But I'm really happy to be here today. With that said, though, I feel like 2026 is not my year. I caught a cold, so I may cough or blow my nose during the webinar. I'm going to mute myself. Sorry about that. Still want to apologize. With that said, though, as I said, really happy to be here, really excited to be here. My name is Frederick Harper. You can call me Fred. I'm a senior developer relations manager at TinyMCE. What do I do? My job is to give love to developers. Basically, I'm the social, friendly, technical, approachable face of the company. And part of my job is to do webinars, live stream, speak at conferences, talk about technology, or at least topic that is interesting to developers. And hopefully today is going to be interesting for you. So my plan for today is to talk a little bit, like go through a little bit of slides, but do not worry. I'm going to jump into code right away after that. I just want to introduce yourself to TinyMCE because you may not know what is TinyMCE. And today's goal is to understand more like, yes, in Angular, you can use a text area to help your users to like input some content within your application, your Angular application, but there is also a way for you to move from text area to superpowers. So really today, what we're going to try to do is to build a serious editor in Angular with TinyMCE, mostly focusing on collaboration features. So there's many other features in TinyMCE, but we will focus on collaboration features. With that said, let's start. Let me just introduce quickly TinyMCE for those of you that do not know TinyMCE. We're an open source product. We have enterprise grade performance. You can integrate TinyMCE anywhere in minutes, not months. So that's one of the benefits of TinyMCE. It's customizable, but really a couple of lines of JavaScript, a couple of lines in your Angular application, and you're good to go. It's flexible, meaning that what I'm going to show you today is using the TinyMCE cloud. So basically, if I was just doing, just a simple vanilla JavaScript file, I would just have a script import and import my JavaScript file from our cloud or from your CDN, but you can also have on-premise. So if you want to self-host TinyMCE, it's possible for you. As I said, it's really fast and easy to maintain. We've been existing for more than 20 years. So, I started my career a little bit before TinyMCE. So yes, I'm old, but we've been there for more than 20 years, which from my point of view, doesn't mean that we're not part of the cool kids. We're still part of the cool kids anymore. You may even have used TinyMCE in the past. Maybe not right now in your project, but maybe in WordPress or Umbraco or Moodle if you use the LMS system. They are using TinyMCE. So we've been there for a while, for a long, long time. We have more than 1 million developers using us. Company from like small startups, from open source project to Fortune 500 companies. What is TinyMCE? It's a rich text editor. So a WYSIWYG, what you see is what you get. We have all the basic editing functions you expect in rich text editor, changing the text bold, italic, underscore, changing the paragraph, alignment, tables, images, links. Basically, as I said, everything you want in a WYSIWYG. But where I really think there's a lot more benefits to TinyMCE, like the core features are amazing, but it's really the collaboration suite. And this is what I'm going to talk to you about. Plugins like suggested edit, comments, revision histories. I'm not going to show you mention, but I'm also going to show you the AI assistants that we have, the V1. We're coming with a new version really soon. And if we have time, I may also show you other stuff. But I really want to focus on the collaboration features because Like everything else, you've seen that in a rich text editor. You are using WYSIWYG in any application you're using these days. You have way to format text. Those features are great. They're important. They give great functionalities to your users. But at the end of the day, if you really want to go the extra mile, I think the collaboration suite is really what is something that's going to be super useful. And there is a lot more features. So I don't want to do like a lot of like marketing blah blah around TinyMCE, but we have other plugins out there. We have 50 plugins. Some of them are part of the open source project. They're free. Some of them are commercial. There's a way for you also one of the plugins, two of the plugins that I really like that I won't demo today because of time, but that I really like. The one is how it's possible for you to paste from a Word document or a Google Doc and ensure that you're going to keep the same formatting and it won't have like that HTML garbage that you usually have. So we have a plugin for that. We have a plugin for accessibility, the accessibility checker, that if we have time, I will try to demo you because I really love it. And accessibility is a pet peeve of mine. So again, more than 50 plugins out there, really useful. I talked to you about the compliance and accessibility. TinyMCE in itself is accessible, but your users may create content that are not accessible, which we cannot really prevent them to do that. But there is a tool, there's a plugin out there that help you, even if you don't have the expertise or the knowledge to understand if your content is accessible or not. We released version 8 a couple of months ago. We're releasing a new minor version of TinyMCE 8. And what's coming really, really soon, it's the next gen AI. So what I'm going to show you today, unfortunately, it's not that. We're in the final phase of like beta testing before releasing in a month or a new version of the AI assistant or TinyMCE AI. But what I'm going to show you today is still going to be useful, and that's going to give you an impression about where we are going. And there are new stuff coming in, so I invite you to check the TinyMCE website. As I said, TinyMCE is quite powerful in itself, really easy to integrate. But what I really love about it is that it's also easy to customize. So as I said, we have 50 more official plugins. You have the freedom to build your own. Also, if there's something that doesn't fit your need, you can customize the menu, the toolbar. You can use some skins. I can't remember how many API endpoints we have. It's too many for me to all remember them, but like everything is there for you to help yourself being successful. We have different integration too. We try to make people life easy. TinyMCE is a JavaScript application. So basically, any languages that support JavaScript, you're good to go with TinyMCE. But we wanted to go to the next level. So we have support for React. We have support for, guess what? Angular, Vue.js, and many other software there. So it's either in the form of wrapper or component that we provide. And today I'm going to show you the Angular one, obviously, because of the webinar we're doing. If you're asking yourself, like, is there any specific use cases? Again, every time you need your users to create rich text content within your application, think about TinyMCE. I mean, like, obviously, you can put a single text area, or you can try to build it yourself. Trust me, it's more complicated than it looks like. So I have a huge respect for the engineering team. They're doing an amazing job because let's be honest, if you just want to have like a bold or italic button, okay, not that complicated, but like if you want to add all the other features that will help you users being successful and create great content, if you want to be sure it's secure, if you want to be sure it's compliant, if you want to be sure it's accessible, that start to be complicated. So this is why when people think about like, hey, I can build this myself, or even I can vibe code this myself, my answer is like, I don't want to be arrogant, but like try it and let's talk after to see how it goes. And if you're successful, good for you. But if you're not, think about TinyMCE. So whatever you're using, you're creating actually has developers or people building software, or like product owners. If you're like building a CMS, content management system, a email platform, messaging platform, LMS, learning management system, CRM, a document management system, workflow and collaboration, those are some of the use cases where people use us or use TinyMCE within their application. And the goal at the end of the day is that you're not building all the rich text editor yourself, is that you leave that to us. It's our expertise. And with the time you have, with the resources you have, you concentrate on what is your expertise, what is that you can bring for the rest of business to really bring value to, again, your potential users or customers. TinyMCE, there's different ways to use it. The first one is, as I said, we're open source, we're in a GPL license. So if your project is GPL, you are good to go with the open source version. But also we have a free trial where you can try like all the premium features. There's also a free version where you still need to subscribe, get an API key. But if you have under, if I'm not wrong, under 1,000 loads of the editor per month, you're good to go with the free edition. But after that, if you want more, we are a for-profit company. You need to pay also if there is like premium plugins that you want to use. There is some cost out of it. I don't want to talk too much about that today. You can always go on the website to get more information about that. But as I said, there's a way for you to try it, to try most of the premium features. There's a way for you to use it for free, also depending on your use case. And again, depending on your use case, maybe there's an opportunity or there's a need for you to start thinking about the commercial approach of what we have. So that's not the end of my talk. I just thought that like that would be a great time to have like that really big QR code in my screen. Actually, really, it's just if you want to connect with me, this is your QR code, that point on my LinkedIn profile. I assume also we will send a follow-up email to people who join and register to the webinar. I'll give you my information, but I'm always happy to connect with people in the industry on LinkedIn, and if we didn't work together, so feel free to do that. I'm also on LinkedIn, Twitter, Blue Sky. I'm basically a little bit too much everywhere. So with that said, enough talking. Actually, it's not true. I'm still going to talk, but now I really want to go more in details about TinyMCE on the code side because, that webinar is targeted to developers. So actually, I'll like just before I start, go on tiny.cloud if you want to get more information. If you want to try what I'm going to demo today, you go on tiny.cloud, you sign up for the free trial, and you try all the plugins that I'm going to use today. So I was thinking about how I was going to do that webinar. And at first I was like, okay, let me code everything I want to demo. And after that, I was like, you know what? No, not going to happen for two reasons. One, everything can happen if you like code, way too much code. And I would say, and maybe I should not say that in an ng-conf webinar, but like I don't consider myself an Angular developer right now. So I use Angular a lot. I think 10 years ago, in the last couple of years, I had to use different technologies depending on my job. So I still have knowledge about Angular. I wouldn't call myself an expert. So everything could go wrong during that demo. So I decided to set that away and concentrate really on explaining you the code that I created. So I created a TinyMCE application using different like premium plugins that are centered around the collaboration suite. So I will explain to you how to do that. But there's always a page in the documentation that explains how to do it. And the first page is if you go on tiny.cloud/docs, you end up with a choice of like supported integration we have, either front end or back end, different ways to use TinyMCE. So as I said, you can use with the Tiny Cloud, which is basically using your CDM to load the JavaScript files for TinyMCE, or you can also, self-host. You can also download a zip file, which is another way to basically self-host or add the code on your own application. But in my case, I'm going to go in the easiest way to Tiny Cloud. And what I love from our docs, and I usually own docs as a developer advocate. It's not the case at TinyMCE. The engineering team is owning the docs and they're doing a fantastic job. I love it. There is a step-by-step about everything. So if you don't know how to do it right now at home, probably you won't try the same thing I'm doing right now because there's a lot more code. But if you want to try TinyMCE with Angular after that, we even go to the step of like how to create just a hello world tiny, actually Angular application and how to add Tiny. So it's pretty simple. You just use the ng CLI, the Angular CLI. We skip Git just for the sake of the demo. Probably won't do that at home because you want to, use file versioning. You create your projects and you install. This is where part of the magic happens. You install the TinyMCE Angular component. So basically, we have heard that for TinyMCE, it's a module that will help you to use the editor component. So I will go back to my code right now, but just wanted to show you the docs. There's a step-by-step how to do that. I'll share that with you by email after the webinar. So if you want to try it at home, you're going to be able to try it. One other thing I want to do, I didn't do it yet also, it's the code that I'm going to use today. I will put that on GitHub. So if you don't want to go through all the step-by-step, but you still want to test the application I'm going to demo today, you're going to be able to do that. So on that note, let me show you TinyMCE in action before I go to the code. So this is TinyMCE. I created, let's forget those icons for a second, but I created like a default toolbar with paragraph options and the size. So I can change the size here if I want to. I can make the text bold or unbold it. And there's a lot more items that I could put on the toolbars, but I decided to keep it as like the default toolbar that most people will use. I can look at the code. So TinyMCE generate HTML code. So this is basically the content of TinyMCE. So if I want to export that after in my database, this is HTML code that will be generated. So this is TinyMCE in action. But let's see how it translates in terms of code. So that may be a little bit too small, so I'm going to zoom that a little bit. So here I have a really bad folder structure, but what I created, basically, I went and I just used ng. I created a new application. I installed the TinyMCE component with npm, and I end up with, a default structure, a hello world application. Two things I've done at first. I went in app.ts. I imported the editor component. So this is my component that was installed with TinyMCE, the npm install for TinyMCE. And in my initialize editor here, I actually initialize TinyMCE. And here you're going to see a lot more things that are not useful for now. So let's focus on those parts. So this is how I will initialize TinyMCE. So I just initialize TinyMCE. I put a list of plugin. So here I'm using Tiny Comments, the list, the link, the image, table, the code. The order here doesn't matter. It's just to tell TinyMCE I need all those plugins installed. As an example, if I decide to remove the code one is this one. If I remove the code here, I probably want to remove it in the toolbar. So if I save the file here, that plugin is not loaded anymore. So this is how fast it is to add a plugin. I need to use the proper keywords, which you can find in the Tiny documentation about which plugin I want to use. And with some plugin, I need also to add a button in the toolbar. So there is an option for me to launch that plugin. But even if I don't, I could go in view here and have source core. So I still would have it in my file menu. So this is how I install a plugin. This is how I define TinyMCE. So here, the order will make sense. So I need to define the toolbar. If I remove the toolbar though, I will have like a default toolbar plus the AI plugin that I already had there, but I'm going to have a default toolbar. But in my case, I wanted to customize it. So you can change the order, you can put separator between them. So here I have the add comments, I have the show comments, I have spacing here, I have the review edit. Here I have another spacing here. So I basically define how I wanted my toolbar to show. And there is other like different properties. So I really tried to make it the smallest example possible. The second change that I did, I went in my app.html, and here I just decided to check like if it was ready, which is something that I did in the app.ts just because I need to load some data for the plugins that I'm demoing today. But the important part is that I'm using now the editor tag here, and I'm providing two information in it, which is like everything that I defined in app.ts to define TinyMCE and my API key, because right now I'm going to use a couple of commercial plugins. Obviously, my API key is not directly in my code, so I won't show you that. But I created the environments folder with the environment.ts, and I basically put the values of my API key there for TinyMCE, but also because I'm going to show you the AI assistant, I also put the values for my OpenAI key because I'm going to need it for one of my demo. So if I just want a really bare bone TinyMCE, this is what I need to do in Angular. The next step, what I want to do is to add suggested edit. So let me show you what is suggested edit. I have a rich text editor right now. I'm going to create content. In most cases, or in some cases, that's going to be a single user creating content. As an example, if I creating like an application for ticket support, I'm going to have TinyMCE so my users can create rich text content. They can add image. They can like make some text in bold, had a table with data. If they want to share information about the issue that they have, I want them to be able to create rich text. In that case, it's a one-to-one. The users create the support tickets, format the text, send it, you're good to go. In many other cases, you need collaboration to create content. Let's think about a blog. Let's think about, anything that require multiple users to write information in the same quote unquote document or part of the application. So all those collaboration features going to be interesting. And in the end, my kind of goal with that webinar is that you, with your Angular application, you end up with something that I would say is close to your experience of, let's say, a Google Doc or, Office Word online, where you can collaborate with people, sorry about that, and add comments and, see the revision and see the suggestion. Because as someone who write content for work, part of my job is to write content. I have people in my team who's going to review my content. People that are better in English than me, because that's my second language. They're going to correct my English. People that are better writers than me, they're going to make suggestions. But I want to be sure that they won't modify everything without my approval, because that may change the voice or what I wanted to say with my text. So one of the features that I like is the suggestion edit. So here I have that option here. When I click review edit, I enter a mode where I can, as I said, review edits. So I have other quote unquote users, actually fake users for that demo, that created some change in my text. So Alex here had the word interactive. So you see here, you may not see it very well, but like it's some kind of like greenish, and you're going to see that like he added a word. So Alex, I can decide to accept that and say like, yeah, it's part of what I want, and I can complete the review. And now it's really part of my document, because if I go back to actually suggested it, that text from Alex, that previous text from Alex won't be there. I can reject the suggestion. I can also provide feedback and say like, I don't think so, or I don't think so. I don't think it's a nice improvement. And I say, no, it's not good. And I reject that and I complete the review. So it's a way for users to do suggestion. So here, if I had something, I say like, welcome to the suggested edit. If I go back to my suggested edit, you're going to see that me has James today, because I have multiple personalities. James today deleted that text. And the owner, depending on like how you manage security for that document and the suggested edit, you can decide to reject it or accept those modifications. And here I can remove the edit, show the edit, complete the review, and now you see my suggestion to remove that word was rejected, so the word is still there. So a feature that is really useful, because as I said, if multiple people work on a document, you want to be sure that like other people can review the changes, because sometimes it can change what you wanted to say with a sentence, and maybe it makes sense grammatically. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that word right, but sometimes it doesn't make sense in the terms of like the content you wanted to create. So to implement that, let's go to the code. So here I added suggested edit as one of the plugins that I want TinyMCE to load. I also had it suggested edit in my toolbar. I wanted to have the button there, because what I like with this one is that there is something visual here. There's still edits that I need to review. So there's that little blue dot that tell me like, hey, Fred, you still have jobs to do on that document. What I'm showcasing you today, most of the collaboration tools that I'm showcasing you today are on the, should I say, more complex implementation in TinyMCE, because they're about collaboration, because they involve users, because they involve revision, different version of the text. So there is some function that you need to create to be able to manage that. But as I said, as I shown you before, like if I just want to add, like to use the code plugin, I just need to add two words here. And this is how you customize TinyMCE for most plugins out there. But the one that I'm showcasing you today are a little more advanced. It takes a little more work, but we try to do most of the heavy lifting on our side. So if I go to suggested edit, there's basically three things that I need to do. First, I need to actually the real only thing I really need to do is to pass a model to the suggested edit underscore model property here. And that model is basically what is the suggested edits content that needs to be part of TinyMCE. Because in TinyMCE, we don't manage how you save your content. We don't manage how you retrieve your content. You are the one who decide where you're going to save that content in a database somewhere on your infrastructure. What we manage is the creation of the content within the browser where you had TinyMCE. So here, because it's a demo, what I've done, if I go in, I split things in different TypeScript files just to make it easier for us to show the information. I won't go through the Angular specific aspect of it. Hopefully, if you're in our webinar, you know Angular. But what I've done here, I created that load model function that basically load like a fake database. So I just wanted to make it easier for that demo. And I had my edit.json, so it's a JSON file here. That content is really specific structure, JSON structure schema that helps me to have the different suggestion that were made by users. So again, this is a demo. I kind of like fake those suggestions. In the best world scenario, I would have a database with all those information. And with those information, I will retrieve them when I load that specific instance of the content I want to load with TinyMCE. So in that case, what I've done, I had my JSON file with all the suggested edit here. Within my file, I'm basically loading the content of the JSON file that I return as a model here to my suggested edit model. Here I'm giving full access and I'm just telling folks that like, yes, it's the model because now I'm using JSON, but with suggested edit, I could also use HTML content. So that's two ways for me to load the data. So with just providing the model, so providing the data, the suggestions that were created by the users, which I can retry from TinyMCE to save in my database after that. This is the only thing I have to do. So TinyMCE will manage everything else in the interface, the interaction, the approval processes. You just need to load the model or save the model wherever you want to save that information. So that was the first plugin I wanted to show you. Let me move to the second one. Second plugin that I really love, still about collaboration, is comments. So you've seen that I can provide feedback on suggested edit, but sometimes it's not related to an edit. Sometimes I just want to add comments. I do that a lot. There's Coco on my team, not on my team, on one of her team. She's creating amazing content. I help her review a little bit of the content because we do that for everyone. And she knows by now I leave a lot of comments. I have a lot of questions, and the comments functionality is one of the things that I like the most and that I probably overuse. So here there's two buttons. There's the show comments where I already loaded two comments within that content that was created. The first one is again James that say like, hey, what do you think about that? And you can have a thread. Mia said like, I think it's a great idea, and I'm gonna be negative. I don't think so. And we can add comment on specific content. So when you click on it, you see that now it's highlighted the yes, and you see that Mia had another comment here. I don't know why Mia think that the exclamation point is not professional. So I can decide to delete the conversation, and it won't happen because I don't have the permission. I'm not the one who is the administrator on that document. But if I had a comment myself and I say like, oh my God, that is so cool here, and I'm having a comment, oh my God, so cool. And I'm James again, and I had a comment here. So now there's a new comment that I can see, but I can also decide to resolve the conversation or delete the comment because I have that access for it. So basically, as I said, that's a comments plugin. Love it because you don't always need to suggest things. Sometimes you just need to add comment or ask questions to the original person who created the content. And how I do that. So this one's going to be the most extensive implementation I need to do within TinyMCE because there's a lot of things I can do with comments. So again, we tried to do as much as the heavy lifting as we could within TinyMCE, but there's still some work for you to do because of how you want to manage the data. So TinyMCE is all about, we try to make your life simple or as simple as possible, but we still give you a lot of leeway to try to customize things and do what makes sense for you. So let me show you the comments, how it's working. First, again, I added tiny comments in the plugin list, which means that now I activated that plugin within my TinyMCE instance, and I added two buttons: add comments, add comment, and show comments. I wanted both. You can also say, like, when I open TinyMCE, the show comments will like display automatically. In my case, because I wanted to show multiple plugin, I decided not to do that. Also have the quick bar selection toolbar, which is when I go here and I click on something. Now you see I have the add comments and the show comments. Why is that? Because I defined that. So again, everything that I can customize is there. I also have like some functions here that I needed to define also for suggested edit to fetch the users. Here I'm just using like a dummy API to fetch a bunch of like fake users. Again, obviously you would probably have a list, like a table of users or people in your database that you would fetch with different permission about different like type of contents that it can create or different pages. I defined who I was in those example. It's hard coded. Please don't do that at home, kids. It's just for the demo's sake. But this is where a lot more work happened. So first, I need to define the mode on how I'm going to use the comments plugin. There's two ways to use it. There's the callback and the embedded. Callback is where you're going to get a lot more controls because all the comments that will be had to your content within TinyMCE will be treated as like separate content. So I'm going to be able to manage that and get that information separately from the content itself, which from my point of view, I think is the best way to go. But if you don't want that, if for reasons you won't use the TinyMCE content until all the comments are resolved and answered, you can also use the embed mode, which will, as it said, embed all the comments content within the TinyMCE HTML content. So if you export the content that was created in TinyMCE, you're going to also have all the contents within the HTML code, which again makes sense depending on your use case. But in my case, I use the callback because I think this is what most people will do when it comes to using comments within your production application. So here's the fun. You need to, create functions for all those properties. So what's going to happen when someone creates a comment? What's going to happen when someone reply, delete, resolve a comment, or someone who has the permission to delete all comment? How can we look up a comment? How can we delete a specific comment, but also edit a specific comment and fetching all the comments? So all those functions needs to be created. So first thing, the comments that I loaded at first, again, sorry about that, fake data. So again, I use a JSON file with the structure. It's provided on the documentation. This is the JSON format that I use. Here are all the information about like the comments that were left. So there's the content, but there's also information about the user. So again, it's because I'm using fake data. I created a JSON file that I'm going to load in my comment.ts. So here, the first thing that I'm doing, I have a random string here just to create fake UID. But what I'm doing here, I'm fetching the user's profile. It's from an API that, not a real API, actually it's a real API, but it returns like a predefined list of users just for demos. So I'm loading the list of users because I need to know like who created the content to have that information. So I'm loading the users here. I'm loading the conversation again from my JSON file. So let me make it a little bit bigger. So I'm loading the comments from my JSON file. Here, it's really, I need to define the function, load conversation. The rest of the code is not that important. What is important is that I return conversation. So I return the information. So TinyMCE is able, within that format, that JSON schema, to load the comments within TinyMCE. And after that, I create all the function that I need to make it happen. So we're going to handle all the UI part. What you want to do here is like define like some like how you're going to manage like who can create, who has access as an example to create comments in that tool, that implementation of TinyMCE. Or here, as an example, it's hard coded. Again, don't do that at home. It's for demo reason. Actually, one day I should probably create like a full-fledged production-ready demo with a database. So I need to stop saying like, oh, I hard-coded that because I don't like to do that. I just want to simplify the demos and give you example how the codes work. But in that case, because I defined it that for that demo, I would be James. Not sure why. I should probably use my name, but I would be James toward the demo. I said every time I create a content, it's James. But what you would do here is pass the users that actually log in your application in using TinyMCE right now. And I'm going to do that for every other functions, like how can I add a reply? And how can, like, what's happening when I delete a discussion or a conversation thread? Here, you had your own logic. So here I'm just deleting the discussion from my fake database, which is what I loaded from my comments.json. But what you may want to do here, I mean, like what's happening with any other tools you use, specifically I used a lot in the past Google Docs. And with Google Docs, every time that someone had a comment or delete something or resolve something, a discussion, you receive an email. So it's probably where you want to have your logic about that. And I won't go through the rest. It's a little bit boring. It's repetitive. It's just like, how do we do in all those cases? Again, you resolve a comment. I just remove it from my fake database. You delete an individual comment. This is where you can add logics because we won't do that user logics for you. Again, it's how you want to manage that. So we try to do everything that is inside TinyMCE, but like who is the users who can delete that? Specific comments, like as I said, as I shown you actually, I was not able to delete the comment from someone else because I didn't have what we would call here admin privilege. So I had to define all those functions, and at the end of the day, I end up with a common functionality within my application. So all the UI part, all the interaction within the UI are managed for you. You have to do the logic around the data. How do you manage the data with that? I told the organizers that I may not took the full hours, but I talked a lot and I realized that I'm talking a lot. So I'm going to try to show you at least two other features that are part of the description that I really wanted to show you today. The third one, again, around collaboration is the revision history. And I have those tabs here just to show you that like everything that I'm showcasing you today is in the docs. Basically, also, most of the example that I'm using today, it's close to the code we have in the docs. It's the only thing, the code in the doc is vanilla JavaScript. I changed some of the code to make it like more close to TypeScript and fit within Angular application, but you have all those examples in the doc. So here, suggested edit is part of the docs. How to configure the comments plugin, also part of the docs. Now I'm going to talk about revision history. Again, you have that information in the docs, but let me show you how it's working. Another feature I like, because, for me, it just made me think a little bit about Git. I know it's not the same exact thing, but one of the things that was powerful when we started to have file versioning, because yes, I started to work in tech before Git, even before the predecessor, or not, even before the file versioning that existed before Git. But when we started to have file versioning, that was just so good for me because I didn't have to like copy and paste and like do manual backup of my stuff, and I really had like a proper way to see like what I was improving and changing in my code. But I like to have something that is equivalent when I write on a document. Not always just by myself, if I want to be honest. It's mostly when I work with other people. So I have that little button here that I had. It's revision history. If I go in view, I can click revision history. And you guessed it, it shows you the revision history. So again, this is hard-coded for that demo. But now you can see that like, hey, there's a change there. There's a new version. There's a new version. There's like probably the first version here. Let's go here. And, or let's go with this one. Like there's not the word interactive, there's a little less text, there is not also the found a bug. So here what I can do is restore this version, And now I have that version restored. And I can go back and like restore different versions. And this is revision history. So showcasing you how it's working, pretty simple. You have a list of revision and you can restore those different revisions. But on the code, how does it work? So revision history, again, like any plugin, what I need to do, where is it? Here. I need to add the proper keyword for the plugin I want to activate. So I had revision history here in the plugin. Also decided to add it in my toolbar. I just like to have things in the toolbars. I prefer the toolbars. Sometimes I will even remove the file menu, which you can hide if you don't want it for different reasons. I just love something a little more visual. So I always like to have my plugins when it makes sense in my toolbar. So I had the plugin here. I had it in my toolbar here. And I only have one property that I need to define, which is the revision history fetch, which will fetch, as the words say, the revision history. So again, here I use a JSON format to have the different versions of my content. So I have different versions of my content here. Again, everything is in the documentation. If you guessed it, if you're not sleeping during the webinar and you listen to the rest, you're going to understand that what's going to happen here. I'm going to load my data from JSON. So I'm going to return basically my revision to TinyMCE here. So TinyMCE here will know how to get that information and load it within the plugin. And this is the only thing I need to do. I only need to fetch the revision. So TinyMCE will take care of like if people want to restore the version, that will change the content of TinyMCE. And once you want to save that content, you will be able to retrieve that content. So obviously I could also like add other functions. So if I go here, revision history, there is an opportunity for me to here you have all the structure, like how to fetch the different revision to, because as I said, if you want to fetch the revision that were made by people, you need to get that information, save it in the database. Don't put it like in a hard-coded JSON like me, but this is how we're going to be able to implement revision history. So a little bit easier, a little less function, a little less property to override, but still, it is a great feature. I love it because again, that just happened to me this morning when I was writing a document, and I didn't have a revision history. It was not in TinyMCE though, and I missed it, and I lost a little bit of my work. So sometimes you change stuff, you think it's good, someone else changed the document without using suggested it. If you don't have revision history, it just makes your life a little bit harder. Last plugin that I want to show you today is the AI assistant plugin. Why? Because, we live in an AI era. So it's important that now, from now on, for 2026, every talks or webinar you attend, there is someone talking about AI. I needed to be that guy. So let's talk about the AI assistant. Keep in mind that it's the version 1 we launched a couple of months ago. We are actually beta testing the next version of our AI assistants that's going to be launched in, I don't remember the exact date, but it's going to be in about a month. We're going to launch the V2. It's going to be TinyMCE AI. And I'm going to just explain to you a little bit the difference. But let me show you the V1, the AI assistants that we have right now. Actually, I say V1, V2, but V2 is not a real V2. It's complete over like we changed everything, we made it just better. So it's, from my point of view, it's a different plugin than the one we have right now. So right now we have AI assistants. I added two buttons to my toolbar. There is also one in the context menu when I select something, and there is two things you can do with AI assistants. First one, there's those predefined shortcut that you can define yourself. You can add some yourself, and I can say here, you know what? Let's try to refresh that because it's hard coded. It will go back to my initial version. I'm going to have a little more text here. So if I go here and I select that and I use one of the shortcut, and I'm going to say there's not enough text to summarize the content. Let's expand upon. So now I use something that is predefined, and it's using OpenAI beyond the door. You can choose the LLMs that you want. I decided OpenAI just because, if I want to be honest, I was just a little bit lazy. This is the example we use on the docs, and now I can decide to insert that. And the LLM was able to write way too much text for what I wanted. But you understand the thing. What I could do here also is write my own prompt. and I could say, you know what? Made it 2 sentences max. And this is an assistant that will help me to write, create content. So it's basically focused on text-based content right now. I can also, not just about the content that exists, but I can say like, hey, write 4 lines about cats unrelated at all to TinyMCE. You may see my background. I have a cat pen thing. You may have seen also 1 or 2 cats walking around during the show fully. You like cats, so they're always part of all webinars I do. So you use the AI assistants to assist you in writing content. So this is the version we have right now. The next version coming in is going to be even more involved within TinyMCE. So right now it's focused on the text, but the next version is going to be able to really, integrate with TinyMCE in terms of like all the, change and formatting that you've done. It's going to be able to create tables, going to be able to do a lot more. You're going to have also a proper chat features like you have with any other LLM. So you can have like a discussion. You're going to be able to upload files and do a lot more things that you can do with the other tools, other LLMs that you're using. The benefit though is that the tool will be integrated within TinyMCE. You don't have to do context switching when you're creating content. And also the tool is going to have like the full information from TinyMCE. So the tool is going to have the context to work and help you create proper, nice, visual, interesting content within your application. So how did I do that? How did I have the AI assistants? Let me close it here, go back here. I'm pretty sure if you had your mic open, you could guess what I need to do. So the thing I need to do is to have the plugin in my plugin list. And the keyword for that plugin is AI, as simple as that. But also decided to have 2, button on my list, the AI dialogue, which is the AI, the kind of like prompt where you just type whatever you want, and the AI shortcuts, which is the list of like predefined shortcuts that are defaults and could be useful. If I go in my AI assistant here, TypeScript file, this is what I need to define. Actually, sorry, if I scroll down here, I need to, define that AI request property, which I point to that AI request here, which is basically, when I create it. Here, it's just creating AI request. It's using my AI API key, and that function is defined here. So here again, TinyMCE always try to find a mix between like implementing what could happen within the editor, the UI part of the editor, the action done in the editor, but like how do you manage that on your own is part of what you code here. So what I've done here, I basically receive the information, what was prompted by the users within my application. And I can basically define whatever I want here. I even decided, because all the time I was asking OpenAI to like give me or help me to write the text, it was always coming back with in Markdown with triple backtick, HTML ending with triple backtick. So I could have like, as a developer, I could have like post-process what was returned, the message that was returned by OpenAI. In my case, just to show you that like I can also send additional comment to additional prompt to the LLM tools that I'm using, I decided to put it there. And here I'm fetching the OpenAI, using the API to get that information. I'm getting the information back. I'm reading the response, and I'm feeding that to TinyMCE. We will take the responsibility to have that information where it needs to be headed within my application. So if I go into docs again, here you're going to see there's OpenAI and ChatGPT, but there's also a list to do with Azure AI, Amazon Bedrock, Gemini, and I don't see why you would not be able to implement any other LLMs out there. You probably should have Doc for Cloud, which I'm a big fan of. So actually, we have it. Oh no, okay, it's Amazon Bedrock using the Haiku from Cloud Entropic. But here, because you write the code to contact the LLM, and we manage the UI integration within TinyMCE and the UI interaction with the users, it gave you the flexibility that you need. But again, it's the AI assistant. We're coming with TinyMCE AI, which is going to be, as I said, I don't like to say that actually, the next version, but like a more powerful version of the AI assistant in the next month. So within the next month, look for a new release of TinyMCE. So at the end of the day, this is what I wanted to showcase. It's like how, in just like a couple of lines, I was able to, there's a lot more stuff here because, I decided to do it well. But like basically what I needed to do is to install the TinyMCE Angular, import the editor component, define the, editor component here with the init, change my HTML5 to be sure I'm going to load the editor instead of a text area, and I have TinyMCE. Everything else I've shown you after the first 5 minutes is collaboration features that I really love to demo because I think they take TinyMCE to the next level, and this is what most people need within their application. As you see, there is still a little bit of code to do with those one because they have a little more data to handle. But as an example, if I want to show you one last thing, and after I'm going to take at least 5 minutes for questions if there is any. But if I want to have I think I told you about the AI, the accessibility checker. So I'm going to add it to my plugin list. The keyword is hey 11y, which is often how people write accessibility checker, and the toolbar that's going to be check. I don't know why we didn't put checker in the toolbar, the same name as the plugin. Sometimes I'm confused by that. I need to ask the engineering team. But if I do that, if I go back here, this is the only thing I had to do. And now if I click there, you're going to see that like part of the content that I created were not accessible. So I have that little guy here that helps me to, even if I'm not an accessibility expert, to tell me like, hey, there's an issue there. And it can help me repair some of them, not all of them. Maybe in that example of them. But if I say like this one is error 2 and I create something that is unaccessible and I do error 1, blah, 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 that's going to create like a new accessibility issue. Oh, it doesn't show, of course. Live demo. That should be an accessibility issue because you shouldn't put H1 after H2. That tool is there, but as I said, the only thing I had to do is to add the keyword and the plugin to load the accessibility checker. Had it on toolbar just because I like to have the button there. I had no other properties to add here to create. I had no other code to write. And this is 80%, maybe 90% of what you can do with TinyMCE is just like those little heading plugin word and in the toolbar, and you're good to go. I decided today to go a little more complex because I wanted to show you the collaboration feature, but also keep in mind that those are the more quote unquote complex plugins that you can add to TinyMCE. So on that note, I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to stop showing code. Hopefully that was useful. Hopefully you can try it at home. You should try it at home. One last thing I'm going to leave you with before I give the mic back to Giovanni, who was ready to talk. Sorry, I told you I talked a lot, Giovanni. But the only thing I would leave you with before we go to questions, because I think we still have 5 minutes, if you try TinyMCE, let me know how it goes. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Like, I want to have your feedback, either they're positive or not. If you have any issue, also let me know. I'm here to help. You can connect with me on LinkedIn, on Twitter. You'll get my email when I'm gonna send a follow-up email to people. I really want the feedback from people because this is how we improve the product. No matter the feedback, please let me know. On that note, I'm done. Moving the mic to you, Giovanni.
Amazing, amazing presentation. Thank you very much. And yes, I have a question before going to the other ones. Are the features that you showcased, can we play with the features that you showcased with the free version?
Yep. So a couple of things. So with the free version, you're going to have access to the open source / free plugins. Most of the one that I've shown today are premium plugins. So if you want to try it, there is two ways for you. First is that there is a trial, 15-day trials that you can, try all the premium plugins for free. You don't have to pay money. And what I love, the things that I love that we do is that we don't ask you for a credit card. So we don't try to trick you and like, oh, after your trials, you need to pay. So you can try it for free. And also, So if you are on GPL license, you are also good to go to use most of the plugin.
Amazing. One question from the audience is version 8 LTS?
That's actually a really good question. I think the answer is yes, but now that you ask me, I have a doubt about it. Let me just check one thing. Actually, you know what? I don't want to say something stupid. My answer would be yes, but I need to double check that. So, um, who who asked the questions? The person who has the questions, if you can just like contact me, I will get back to you just to be sure because I have a doubt right now. I'm pretty sure the answer is yes, but I have a small doubt. So I don't want to say yes and you get back to me and you say, Fred said it was LTS and it was not.
All right, yeah. And the other question, well, we're getting more questions. Are the docs created with TinyMCE?
Unfortunately, no. And that's a great question. And I wish my answer was yes. We use a tool called, I think it's Astro for documentation. So it's a different syntax. It's not using HTML. It's using, what's the name of that? I always forgot. Anyway, I think it's Astro Docs that we're using. It's not using Markdown. It's not using HTML. With that said, though, TinyMCE has been there for a long time. It's a great idea. I'm pretty sure we should doc food though, TinyMC to creator documentation. So great suggestion. I'm going to talk to the engineering team about that.
All right. And one last question, I guess. What is the recommended TinyMCE way to enforce a hard character limit without relying on multiple event hooks, like before input, key down, or can update, and such?
Good question also. Um, I think there is a property that you can work. No, it's to get the word counts. You know what? I do not know the answer to this one too, uh, because TinyMC is so huge, and I joined 7 months ago, so I'm still learning stuff. So sorry about that, Victor. Let me check the answer and get back to you. Hopefully, there is something about that.
And okay, is there a professional subscription for all developers in my team?
Yeah, so actually, so how it's working, it's based on the usage and load. So maybe let me share my screen one more quickly. Let me go on the right page first. To share screen. Share my browser. So this is how it's working. So every plans include core editing, and how we manage that. It's not per users, it's per load of the editor. So the free version, as I was saying before, you have 1,000 editor loads per month. After that, there's different prices. If you need more editor loads, you move to another package. So those are self-service, kind of like SaaS approach to using TinyMC. What we try to do with people, because those are great for most projects, but in some company, bigger company, you're going to have a lot more editor loads. And at some point, it doesn't make sense to like go with those amounts of money. Like if you go over like 20K editor loads and you need more, you pay $40 per like more like thousands more loads. At some point, it's the case of like let's just talk to your sales team. They're amazing salespeople, and they will always try to find a way for you to have a good price, so you don't pay like crazy amount of money for the usage you have. So go with chat, check on the pricing page. It's tiny.cloud/pricing. You have the information. So again, it's not about the number of people in your team. It's going to be about the number of editor loads that you're going to have. TinyMC being basically load in your application. So no matter how many people in your team, you're good to go. Also, I just realized I said something stupid earlier, meaning with the premium plugins. The GPL license will mostly be for the open source version, so they won't include premium plugin. If you want to use premium plugin, you need to move to paid package. But those are great for collaborations, depending on your projects. Always talk to us, and we'll try to find the best case scenario for you.
Awesome. what is the best way to contact Fred?
Weirdly enough, I think right now it's LinkedIn. I spend so much, like I used to spend way too much time on Twitter. I don't want to go in politics and everything, but Twitter changed a little bit. I still call it Twitter. I spend a little less time there. I'm still there. So you can basically contact me everywhere. But the best place is LinkedIn. Send me a message there. My email also, it's also a great way. I'm old school. Yes, I use email. I still use email. Send me an email also. It's a good way. The only thing though is that part of my job also doing a lot of events. I'm traveling, going to events, so sometimes there's delay when I get back to people. It's not that I don't like you, just keep that in mind. But if you wait for too long, you're like, "Hey, friend, never got back to me. Ping me again." But connect with me on LinkedIn. Always happy to connect with other developers, other tech people out there. Even if you don't use TinyMCE, even if you don't plan to use TinyMCE, and if you don't know each other, I'm all about people. I'm a super extrovert, social person.
Cool, cool. And one last question, I guess. Are loads, loads and user loads for the deployed production apps, or are they developer loads? When
Yeah, so
you
they're gonna be production loads, and also the second question, you don't need your users to have subscriptions, so it's you as as the person who implement TinyMC in your application, who is the person who's gonna pay. Obviously, like maybe there's a way for you to deploy your application where you want to do that. You probably don't want to do that, so you don't want your users to pay the subscription. Is you within your application, the integration you do with TinyMC, you're the one who's gonna, pay the license. So your users don't have to create an account, don't have to set up any API because the API is going to be set up in your code. So you should be good to do with that.
all right. So on that note, we thank again Fred for this amazing talk, and he shared on over the chat ways for contacting him, and also at the beginning of the webinar. So get in touch with him, and thank you, and have a great rest of the week, and see you next time.
Thanks for having me. Thanks everyone, and let me know if there's anything. Have a good rest of the day.